Welcome to the HP Palmtop Tube channel. Today we're going to have a look at Ventura Publisher running on a 200LX Palmtop. Now, Ventura Publisher was the first professional graphical what you see is what you get desktop publishing software for MS-DOS PCs. The first version was released in 1986 and would run on an IBM PC XT or AT using the GEM graphical environment for its user interface. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to create and print this page on the 200LX using Ventura Publisher version 2.0 and just the standard 640 kilobytes of DOS memory. Ventura Publisher allowed for the first time the use of slow, early PCs for advanced desktop publishing of complex documents with style sheets, frames, embedded and linked text documents, bitmap images and vector drawings and much more. An 8086 or 286 PC with a Hercules monochrome display adapter, which offered a high-resolution monochrome bitmap graphics mode, was capable of producing high-quality publications such as newspapers, magazines, large manuals and books, which were all tasks which previously were impossible to do on PCs prior to the release of Ventura Publisher. Before its release, tasks like these could only be done with software such as FrameMaker on expensive Unix workstations running Sun Microsystems SunOS. Ventura also had support for expanded memory, which allowed the user to produce large and complex documents by adding one or more expanded memory cards, adding a few megabytes of RAM, which Ventura fully used via bank switching. This was during a time when most people were using extremely simple MS-DOS software like PrintMaster or non-graphical word processors like WordPerfect, WordStar or MS Word for DOS. GEM, which Ventura runs on, was an early graphical desktop environment developed by Digital Research, the company which is best known for their CP/M disk operating system, which was widely used on early 8 and 16-bit computers in the late 70s and early 80s, before Microsoft's DOS disk operating system was released and ended up becoming the standard operating system for IBM PC and compatible systems in the early and mid-80s. Now, GEM ran on MS-DOS, just like the first three versions of Windows, before the introduction of Windows NT in the middle of the 90s. The first version of GEM for MS-DOS PCs was released in February 1985, just a few months before the release of Microsoft Windows version 1.0, making GEM the first graphical desktop environment released for the PC. Users of the Atari ST line of computers will likely recognize GEM, as it was also ported to the Motorola 68K line of processors, and Atari licensed GEM from Digital Research, and it became the graphical user interface of the Atari TOS operating system. Now, as you'll see in the rest of the video, one of the advantages of Ventura Publisher running on GEM was its efficiency. GEM for PCs was more lightweight, advanced, efficient, and faster than Microsoft Windows, its main competitor. The user interface is very responsive, even on the slowest systems such as the very first IBM PC and compatible systems, with slow CPUs like the XT's 8086 CPU or the 80's 286 CPU. If you have any questions about Ventura or GEM, or information about the Palmtop used, feel free to ask me in the comment section. So let's get started. So basically everything in this application is based around frames. So if I just zoom out, I have my page here. First of all, we're gonna set everything up. So in preferences, I don't think I need to change anything. Printer, I'm going to print to PostScript because my laser printer understands PostScript and can print it. We have our frame and we also need to set our page size. So I'm going to choose A4, which is the format of paper that we use here in New Zealand. And there is my page. Now it is squashed a little bit because this software and the whole window environment was developed to run on a 4:3 aspect ratio computer monitor, and the 200LX Palmtop basically squashes it down halfway, so my page is actually squashed and about nearly twice as short as it should be, but that's not a big deal for our presentation today. So this is basically our frame, our page frame, the master frame, which is the whole page. And a frame can be divided up into columns. I've chosen here to have 3 columns on our page. I'm going to be creating a simple sort of a magazine page just to demonstrate all the features of Ventura Publisher. So what we're going to start with is we're going to create our title. So I'm going to draw a new frame inside the main page frame. Just put that on top like that. I'm going to zoom in so we can see what we're doing. And I'm just going to manually type some text in there. Let's see, HP Palmtop Tube Magazine. Yep. Gonna select that text. Just gonna zoom out, and I'm going to paragraph frame. Hang on. Just set that font. I'm gonna choose something nice like avant-garde, bold, and size, let's say maybe start with 40 points. Oh, that's a little bit too much, 40, so maybe try 35. Yep, that seems to be good. So I'm just gonna zoom in again, and so this is our title. I'm going to select the frame and just make it a little bit smaller so we have room underneath there. And below that we're going to create 2 more frames. Just small ones. Oh, add a new frame like that. And on the right side we're going to do the same. Oh, that's not supposed to be like that. Add new frame. There. So now we have these 2 frames, and again I'm going to go into text mode, and here we are going to type issue 1. We're going to select that text, choose a different font, let's say for example Palatino, bold, and we're going to make that say 18 points, or no, maybe 14 points. Issue 1. Maybe call it volume 1, issue 1. Issue 1. Now I don't know why it does that. Here. Okay. Let's go back and on the right side, we do the same text. And we're going to just put November 2021, and we're going to select that, set the font to the same, Palatino, 14 points, bold. Okay, then we are going to take this frame and just make it a little bit shorter. Yep, same here. Okay, and we're done with that. Next we are going to add a few lines just to make it look a little bit more professional. So I'm just going to zoom out and I'm going to draw a line all the way across. I hold Alt, be straight, and a second line just the same. Here, if we zoom in again, I'm gonna take this line and I'm gonna put it just there. Make sure that it's perfectly aligned here, and the second line we will put just below it there. Make sure that these are both properly aligned. Okay, and with this line selected, we can set our line attributes. I'm just gonna make it a thicker line, I think 3. Yeah, and the other one we'll just leave as a thinner one. So now that we have the top of our page ready, we can actually start adding the content. This is kind of a unique way the software works with content. Instead of, you know, having advanced drawing and text editing features, it has fairly simple editing features like that, and it relies on external software for everything else. So the way you do it is, your text, you're going to be using something like WordPerfect or Microsoft Word or just a text editor, and you type your text and then you link that into your document here, and whenever you open your publication in Ventura, it will relink that document, so you can actually make changes in your preferred software like WordPerfect to that text and then go back to Ventura, and you know, it will update the changes that you made in your publication. And this goes for text, for images, and for vector-based graphics, and it supports a lot of different formats, which is what I'm going to demonstrate now. So let's just reduce our view to the whole page again, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a frame for our text. So let's say that we want our text to be here we go, so it's selected, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna load content into it. So these are all the supported text and documents. So we've got ASCII, WordStar, WordPerfect, Microsoft Word, you know, all kinds of different formats. I'm just gonna be loading up some text that I copied off Wikipedia for the Ventura program, just a text file, and it will basically link it and put the text into, there we go, into the frame that we've just created. Now this text spans the whole width of the frame, which we don't want. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify this frame to have 2 columns, and now it properly has the text going down the left of the page and then continuing in the middle of the page here. Then we are going to do some stuff with graphics, so I'm just gonna zoom out and I'm gonna load a TIFF image. So let's put that image there. So again, I need to create a frame for that. So I'm just gonna add a new frame. And let's make it about that big. And into it we are going to load an image, so a bitmap image. And I'm just going to use a TIFF file. Back in the days of MS-DOS in the mid-80s, PCX files like PC Paintbrush and TIFF were basically the only widely used formats. And I have a bunch of these old black and white TIFF large high-resolution images. Let's start with maybe the one with the people. So this is quite a large file. It's like 400 or 500 kilobytes, and you'll see it render here. If we go to the normal view, we can see the image here. It takes a moment to rescale it. Yeah. So that is looking good. We might even just make that frame a little bit smaller so it fits. Yep. Okay, so we are going to add more graphics to our little magazine that we're creating. Next we're going to add another image, but we're going to put that in these text columns. So if we just create a new frame and we put that frame, say, there, approximately that big, it will automatically insert the frame here and wrap the text around it, and then we can load another image. We'll just load another TIFF file. Money. Okay. There we go. Let's give that a minute to compute. And let's have a proper look with the normal view. To the left. And our image is there. Okay, so it is a little bit small, the frame. So we might just make it a little bit higher. So we'll just grab the frame here and just make it a little bit longer. And the text is automatically wrapped around it. Yep, that looks good. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add another image, but this time we're not going to be adding a TIFF file, we're going to be adding a vector-based format. So let's have another look at our whole page. Now it's getting a bit slow because it constantly needs to resize those images. But let's make another frame. And there. And we are going to load line art, which is a vector-based image. So back in the time, it supported quite a few Lotus pick files, AutoCAD, GEM vector drawings, all kinds of other ones, even raw PostScript, and CGM, computer graphics meta files, which were like the SVG files of the mid-80s. And I've actually converted an SVG file I downloaded off the internet into a computer graphics meta file just to test this out, woman.cgm, and it actually works really well. As you can see, it's drawing it up. If we zoom in and we move to the right, you'll be able to see it in a bit more detail. Yep, there we are. bit, you'll see the whole thing. There we go. Okay, let's reduce our view again and maybe add another image to the middle column. Maybe we could add a frame, say here. So now every time this whole page needs to be redrawn, that needs to be corrected. Okay, and we are going to... I don't have any more CGM files, so we'll just have to load another TIFF file. Let's see, oh yeah, a tractor. So it's actually amazing that with only 640 kilobytes of RAM, this application currently has about 2 megabytes or so of data that it's using, especially those TIFF files, which are quite large. So let's zoom in. Just zoom down a little bit so we can see our new image. Yep, that's fine. Okay, and just to finish things off, I'm going to add one last frame just to really squeeze the last amount possible out of this little machine. Just add maybe another image. Oil rig. Here we are. So that's 4 TIFF images and 1 computer graphics meta file. There we go. So I'm happy with this, so let's print it and see what it looks like on paper. First I'm going to save my project. Wait for it to redraw. And then we're just going to print it. Now I cannot print directly to my printer because the 200LX only has one serial port and I'm currently using it for my mouse, so I can't use the infrared port to print to my printer because the mouse is using the only COM port available. So what I'll do is I'll simply print to file, and then afterwards I will send that file intact straight to my LaserJet, and LaserJets, they can understand PostScript, so it will print it out. So I'm just going to save that to tt.ps. This is a process that could take a few minutes because it has to read all those images, resize everything, and then create a pretty large PostScript file. Okay, we're back. The printing is done. Let's quit the application and have a look at the file that we've created. Yeah, so it's 2.5 megabytes, the PostScript file, and I'm now gonna basically just, sending that over a serial port will take an hour or so, so I'm just gonna copy it onto my desktop PC and just send it to the printer and let my LaserJet print it out. So, here is the final result, printed on my 6-year-old HP LaserJet. As you can see, the results are fairly good. There are a few issues, but considering my limited experience with this software, I'm quite happy with the results. My LaserJet's magenta drum has been damaged since a few weeks, creating a magenta line in the right half of the page. It's also great to see the software correctly convert the computer graphics meta file line art we used into PostScript color output. I also used GhostScript to convert the PostScript file into a large resolution bitmap, as you can see here. I think it's pretty amazing how Ventura can produce a document like this with nearly 3 megabytes of linked files and then output a 2.5 megabyte PostScript file, all using just 640 kilobytes of DOS memory, into which also DOS, GEM and the whole application itself reside. Alas, the fonts for the title and the issue and date information don't seem to correspond to the ones I selected when making the image. But I guess these things are to be expected when you're using a 35-year-old generic PostScript driver with a modern laser printer. At the time Ventura was released, the only affordable commodity laser printers that supported PostScript were the Apple LaserWriter series of monochrome laser printers, for which Ventura's PostScript driver was probably designed and tested on. I used to have a LaserWriter too in the early 2000s, and it did have an RS-232 serial port. And I remember sending PostScript files from my Psion Series 5 and HP 200LX to it. And it could take up to half an hour to transmit the data before the printer actually started to render the page to memory and print it. This was due to the RS-232 port on the LaserWriter being locked to a 9.6 kilobaud rate. The only way to print large files on it was by using its AppleTalk interface, which was only possible with a Mac, which I didn't have. So finally, it's also worth noting that you can easily convert this PostScript file into a modern PDF document for online distribution, as shown here. And so that's all for today. Please help my channel grow by clicking the like button. Consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the bell icon to get notifications of future new HP Palmtop related videos.